Hi there out in the void. It's Wednesday, you know what that means? It means it's time for me to come back and watch some more Christians and theists say stupid things. Yay. Yay! Yes, hooray! This is the start of the video. It's time to be happy and do good things and not be sad today. I have to do some more talking about Dr. John Bergsma, 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 John Bergsma. Yeah, that one. As he uses his theology degree to not understand Egyptology and the history of Egypt at all, because, you know, a theology degree specializing in, I don't know, the Dead Sea Scrolls and working in a place like Steubenville really means that you have all the, you know, I don't know, lack of bias needed to approach a subject such as this rationally and to appraise all evidence and not to ignore it at all. I'm sure you could do that, and we could see from the last video that I'm sure you've already watched. And if not, then you know, do that thing there. Go like and do all that stuff. You know, because what's the point in only watching the second part if you've not watched the first one? So go watch that, and then come watch this, and then you know, you could be fully caught up. You know, so you don't want to, so go fucking watch it. And then, you know, like and subscribe. And by the way, speaking of subscribing, you know, thank you all for getting me to 200 subscribers. You know, getting to 100 took fucking forever, and it kicks you in the balls every day. And this time was a lot quicker, so that's cool. So maybe even getting to 300 will be quicker. Or not. We'll see. But, you know, as such, I've decided, fuck it. I start streaming every Sunday instead of every other Sunday. Plus, my girlfriend's working every Sunday now, except when there's wrestling pay-per-views on. So occasionally, you're just gonna have to deal with that. I might do it on another day, but you know, if there's a pay-per-view on and I have to watch my stories, then I'm gonna go watch my stories, and you can go have fun elsewhere. But you know, otherwise, I'm gonna start streaming every week. You know, I'll definitely do at least one of each of both of my streams each month. You know, but I have no solid schedule. It could just be one month could just be one of random videos and 3 lectures, or the vice versa, or anywhere in between. I haven't decided yet. So, plus I'm getting a bit of backlog of videos. So that's cool. And again, thank you all for subscribing. It's amazing. I tried to do this like 10 years ago, and I didn't do very well. And I'm doing much better this time, and it's all because of lovely people like all of you. So you know, like, subscribe, leave a comment. You know, I have a Ko-fi. I have a I have a Patreon. I might just start doing that on it anyway. And you know, I still got to figure out a way to do these movie watch alongs without fucking myself. And I want to do more bottom of the barrel, but I need to wait until at least the 18th of September to not possibly get a strike for just talking about, you know, anti-vaxxers and how stupid they are. So that's cool. So let's get on to John Bergsma. I have no fucking idea why I have such a hard time saying this fucking name. It's ridiculous. Once you say it once and you don't forget about it, it's Bergsma. It's not that hard. Bergsma rhymes some smegma.
With this material. So the Egyptians had this kind of sacred tent of Pharaoh, their god king, when they went out on war. Well, the Israelites go out into the desert and they organize themselves as an army too, as we see in, say, Numbers 10. They're waging the battles of the Lord.
You always got to love it when your all-powerful, all-knowing God needs humans to wage war on his behalf. Because, you know, he gives us all free will, and then says that you have to kill these for them following the free will that he gave them.
America prays for God to destroy our enemies. Our enemies pray for God to destroy us. Somebody's going to be disappointed. Somebody's wasting their fucking time. Could it be everyone?
Totally not symbolism for Babylon. Remember that. It's totally not. They're an oppressed people in an oppressed land, and they have their God with them, and the God goes with them. And, you know, like, he's all powerful, so he needs a box to live in, because he exists outside of reality, so he needs a box to live in. You know, he's untangible in the earth, so he needs a box to live in. He's all powerful, so we've got to fight battles for him. Like, it's totally not a deity over people and a place, and not an all-powerful deity that created everything, that has changed over thousands of years because the people changed that believed in him. It's got nothing to do with that. It was totally all written as it was happening. Moses, as he was walking down the road, dictated, and I walked down the road, and then I took a left, and then I saw a tree, and realizes that I needed a wee, so I went over and I pissed on the tree, and I saw a little beetle, but I parted the wee for the beetle, so the beetle did not die. Like, no. Like,
what the Bible means to say, yeah.
Moses definitely wrote it, especially that bit that the Bible says that, was found later on. He definitely wrote that bit. So as long as you conveniently only talk about things that you think make you look in a positive light, well, then the whole thing looks bright and cheery, doesn't it? It all looks like it's 100% A-okay, because, a topic like this, that's what I gotta love in stuff like this. When you get, like, actual scholars that actually want to talk about actual things that may or may not have happened, they take long fucking times to talk about it and go, by the way, we are not going to be able to cover nowhere near what you could possibly cover in what actually happened, what we know, what we don't know. Here is a good overview. And this fucker can't even take 10 minutes. He's just like, it's just like that's just like this, and this is just like that. And, if they're like each other, then they must be right. It must be correct, right? Because God is an Egyptian. And he likes Egyptian things, and he likes the Egyptian style, and he likes to walk like an Egyptian. Walk like an Egyptian. So there you go. Egyptian things, bam. Because it was, they did it in the time of fucking, they did it in the time of fucking Ramesses II, and it doesn't matter that we have a stele from Merneptah saying that Israel's seed is not. And he only ruled for 10 years, and he was directly afterwards, and the Bible says 40 years. And, I guess the Egyptians were just lying, right? They were just lying to cover up their own failings because, cultural norms at the time. They didn't lose to him, but they definitely beat him in a war that they beat other people in.
And but they have a tent, and in the sacred throne room of the tabernacle, you have the two cherubim that are signs of divinity and of royalty, but no idol, no image. This is the unseen God. This is the God that cannot be represented by animals or human form or whatever. No idol, no image. This is the unseen God. This is the God that cannot be represented by animals or human form or whatever. And in the sacred throne room of the tabernacle, you have the two cherubim that are signs of divinity and of royalty, but no idol, no image. This is the unseen God. This is the God that cannot be represented by animals or human form or whatever. And so we're using, and this makes sense.
As for me, if you want to know what I think, I'll show you something. Come with me. Come on. This way. Come on, don't be shy. Mind the stairs, all right? I think this will help explain. Come along, come along. We're here. Come on, come on. Come on. This way. Stay by me, huh? Nearly there now. You see that?
You have the two cherubim that are signs of divinity, no idol, no image. This is the God that cannot be represented by animals or human form or whatever.
Well, fuck you.
You gave it your best shot, and that's all Jesus asks of you.
Fuck off. Don't come following me.
So, I only noticed this after my original bit of filming. So, this is why I've made a little cute animation for it. But I want to explain it a bit further, right? I want to explain exactly why what this man just said, as a doctor of theology, is really fucking dumb. So, he's saying, well, you know, there's two cherubim that symbolize the divine and royalty, right? And then symbolizing the divine means that they're standing there as an image, you know, as a selim of God, you see. You know, and selim is ancient Hebrew for image, or, you know, the other one that he says, and I can't remember it offhand. But what it's basically meaning in Genesis is that God creates us in his image, in both likeness and in the fucking, you know, the big stone thing at the back, right? Because we're supposed to treat each other with the respect that we're supposed to treat God. So God makes us his selim. So when we're supposed to treat others like everybody else is actually Yahweh himself, you see? Because, you know. And then he uses two cherubim, which are angels, which are representation of the divine force. It's like, oh, you can't be represented by, you know, his image or whatever. You know, look, they have a human face, right? And either way you want to look at it, whether it be just the icon of God, that's the word I was looking for before, or it's just the image of God, either way, both of them are represented in the cherubim, you see? Because the first face and its body shape is that of a human. Right? Except for the four faces and the wings and everything, but it has a human face. Or it can't be represented by animals, you know, because like it's not Anubis. It's not Anubis, or it's not fucking, you know, Ra, or any of the other Egyptian gods that had, you know, animal things, except for the other three faces of the cherubim, you know, that are standing in the tent of the house of God, representing God, you see. You got one side that's an eagle, you've got one side that's a fucking lion, and I got another side that's a fucking bull, right? A bull. And the bull's the best one, right? Because, you know, we're talking about Moses, right? And the funny thing about Moses is he goes up to the mountain for a little bit, and he's there for a little too long, and everybody gets a bit antsy, and they go, oh my God! Oh, he's not coming down. We best go back to our old god El and start making a golden bull. Yeah, that god El that they all worshipped. You know, I say to you, Noah, I told your forefathers that my name was El Shaddai, but I am an evil god. I lied to them about my name. Like, come on. So, basically, in your not representation icon of God that cannot be seen or represented in any way, you have a human and a bull and a literal angel. You know, the ones that stand outside the Garden of Eden, like them. But hey, you know, they totally inspired the Babylonians. Sorry, the Egyptians, because it was the Egyptians and the Sphinx. That was what the first video was, wasn't it? Yes, it was. So that's cool. So everything I say from now on is going to completely admit everything I've just said, because it's Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the evening, the day before this video comes out. So I'm going to edit this in. I'm going to export the video. And then you're going to watch the rest of the video, and I'm going to pretend like it's done. And it's not done for you. See? So you see, this tent's like that tent, except it doesn't have Anubis in it, or Ra, or a pagan god. So, it's true, right? Aha! It's true. Fascinating. It's totally fascinating stuff, mate. Fucking fascinating, you fucking drongo. You bloody larrigan. Like, come on. It's fascinating, is it? It's so fascinating. Can you not see how the tents are the same? We're like over halfway through this video, and he's like, his proof is that, well, the tents are similar, you see, and, you know, Tutankhamun, who existed a couple hundred years before Moses, well, he had a tabernacle, you see, and that means that Moses is real. Because, like, you know, people didn't exist before the story, or like when it was written. So, things can't, like, why am I even trying to take this too seriously? Like, why am I trying to naturalistically explain away shit?
You're gonna love Mr. Derp. Oh, Derp.
The shit didn't happen. So, that's why you've got to fucking pull towards, well, the tents are similar. And you see, they had similar boxes with poles on them. And Moses, he's bringing a box. He's got 4 handles on it. He's got 4 handles. So if it's got 4 handles, cultural norms at the time. Moses, everyone. Moses. It all happened. The parting of the sea, the plagues, everything happened because they have a similar tent and a similar box. If I was to say that to my girlfriend, she'd get angry.
Damn right!
We're using, and this makes sense to me, Matt, because
you want it to?
You would want to use language and cultural forms,
cultural norms at the time,
that these Egyptian slaves could understand. So you want to use something that communicates, just like we want to. We use the form of the podcast, whatever, to communicate to our contemporaries, right?
Yes, because podcasts and tabernacles and war tents, well, aren't they just the same medium but in a different time? I was just complaining about trying to explain this shit away, but this needs to be said, right? So we've got a bunch of slaves, not free men, not citizens, slaves, who apparently built the pyramids, built Pi Ramesses, built this city and built that city, which, it didn't even say the group. You guys made up that they built pyramids. It only says they built 2 fucking cities. It doesn't say they built pyramids. I don't know. Maybe because the pyramids were built, I don't know, in the Old Kingdom, but not the new one. But hey, who cares about Egypt's history, right? It's not Hebrew. Why the fuck would these people know what the Pharaoh's war tent looked like? Why is that a conveyable medium to them? What did the Hebrews go out on war with them? Did they? Because it doesn't say that in the fucking Bible. It says that the Pharaoh distrusted them because he did not know Jacob or fucking Joseph. Stupid, I mean, there's a Hyksos leader called Jacob, but Joseph as well. It's mental, but it's nothing to do with that. Nothing at all. Was it fucking? So the Pharaoh didn't know Joseph, so he distrusted them, and then he sent them away to build things because they went on war with them, and they were in the I know they came 200. They're supposed to have come 200 years later. In the 1200s BCE. Right around the time of the Bronze Age collapse. Funny that. Weird how that kind of coincides, so it makes your argument look a little bit better because everything was new after that. Or was it 1077 and 1177? I feel like it's 1177 anyway. But whatever. So what? What was I saying? So they all know what the Pharaoh's inner tent looked like, and they all know what what his throne looked like, and they all knew what the inside of a pharaoh's tomb that was dead 200 years before they were supposed to exist there. They definitely knew was on the inside of that, right? So it's a conveyable medium.
So you want to use cultural forms that communicate, but you want to say something radically different than what was said with them previously. And I think that's what we see in the Exodus. So that kind of indirect evidence, again, that to me is very strong that, this is being composed. This is reflecting the historical reality of the time period that it's describing.
Right. You're right. Yeah. They totally knew about the tabernacle from King Tutankhamun's tomb, and Thutmose III's tomb, Amenhotep III's tomb, Amenhotep II's tomb, Akhenaten's tomb, Nefertiti's tomb. You know, like all these very important Egyptians that were mummified and had tombs. They worked on all of them, and they knew all of them intimately, and they knew all the stuff. And you know, really, when I'm trying to convey a new message, I want to stick to the cultural norms of the oppressors that were around, cultural norms at the time, and you know, really pang out some new ideas doing that. What? Yeah, you might use some cultural norms in an example, but you don't like go, here's the house of God. Isn't it just like Anubis? They'll say, do you know what? This fucker's saying this shit with a straight face. But when you go, hey, by the way, you know, like a lot of the stuff from Christmas is pagan. And they go, no, it's not. It's not that way. No, that never happens. Weird how that works, isn't it?
So indirect evidence feels more compelling because it's
trying to prove my fucking point, you see? And since it's trying to prove my point, well then indirect evidence is actually more convincing evidence than direct evidence would have been. And it seems more convincing because we don't have any fucking direct evidence. And because we don't have any direct evidence, well then it's not very good, is it? Something like that. Oh, sorry, it's Australia. Sorry, cunt! You know, it's Australian, so that's a good thing.
It's accidental evidence, it seems.
As it were. Yeah. Right.
Right.
You know, the big stuff can be faked. If there was just some names dropped in the book of Exodus, well, you know, you could say, well, some fiction writer looked up in a history book and found some names of some pharaohs to drop.
See, you can fake the really big evidence, but the little evidence, like a tent design or a box design, that is inspired, my friend. That is 100% real, could never be faked. Why would anybody ever fake a tent or a box?
Of course!
Oh my god.
What? Well, you know, they could search around for some names. They didn't! They left it intentionally vague. I wonder why that is. Maybe because they wouldn't want, I don't know, Egypt going, well, that never happened. Because when you leave it vague, they can't ever say, well, that didn't happen properly, because you could go, well, prove it then, because you don't even know who we're talking about. And they go, oh. It's not even an argument they were having. Oh, my God. It's the genius of these fuckers, right? They're so goddamn infuriating that they make you argue on their level, forgetting all the shit you actually know. Because you're like, no, that's so fucking dumb. It's like a Gish Gallop. It's like a Bergsma amble. Like a Bergsma angle. Bergsma? It's like a Bergsma amble. Bergsma amble. It's like a Bergsma amble. You know, it's just slow, trottering, droning. It's so wrong that you can't help but fixate on it because he's talking so slow, you're thinking about the 35 things that he could be thinking of, and he doesn't talk about any of them because he's so wrong that, like, you know, have you seen the tents? The tents are the same. Why would they make up the tents? But you're like, yeah, but what about literally everything? Yeah, but the tents are the same, and if the tents are the same, then the gist is the same. And Jimmy Akin says, "Oh, I just kicked the fucking the thing, the mic," you know. So, like, the gist is right? And, you know, Jimmy Akin says that if the gist is right, then the rest of it is right. And, you know, the gist of the tent is correct, and the gist of the box is correct. So, the rest of it's correct, right? Well, if Jimmy Akin says it, then it must be true. Because, you know, we only want to go around jerking each other off, talking about how fucking great we are, and how much we've figured out more than others. Ha 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 ha!
But when it's embedded into, as it were, the culture of the Pentateuch, that's even stronger. And then too, we have from the Egyptian Second Temple, from the Egyptian New Kingdom period, we also have a whole bunch of treaty documents, covenant documents between, say, the Pharaoh and the king of Hatti land, or the Hittite Empire, which we would know as Asia Minor.
So because this contract structure, it's Moses. because, you know, when you look at the Tel Alamana letters that he's probably referencing, then you're going, oh, look, Moses would know about them, right? Because, you know, he was like a slave driver or whatever, so he'd know about the personal letters of the king of the Hittite Empire to the Pharaoh of Egypt. And in themselves, you know, would make that covenant. Because it doesn't, because, you know, covenant sounds special, doesn't it? It just means contract / agreement. It's not, everybody did covenants. I mean, like, the Babylonians did it, the Assyrians did. We have lots of covenants from lots of different people. It's just a fucking contract, yo. Because you give it a special name, you think it's different when it's not. Look, he cut the bull in two and then he walked through it. That's what Pharaoh did, right? That's what's in the Tel Alamana letters, is they cut through it. And it has nothing to do with around the 7th century, you know, when King Josiah was king, that the Assyrians came in and made, you know, they took over, you know, Judah. And then they made Israel a vassal state.
Strike that. Reverse it.
And then in making Israel a vassal state, changed their laws and actually made King Josiah enact a bunch of fucking laws, like taking down the temples and the high places, and, like, you know, finding the book of the law, Deuteronomy and stuff like that, you know, where a lot of this structure comes from. It's almost like a lot of it is more actually based not on Egyptian law structure, but a Syrian law structure. Weird that. It's almost like if you're not trying to prove a point and you just want to see what's there, you'll actually find more correct answers. You know, because you don't just jump to the first fucking conclusion. Right? You know what I mean? And because I don't just jump to the first fucking conclusion, well then, you know, but then I must be an idiot, right? Because if I jump to the first conclusion, I'd have to wear one of these all the time. You know, like when I'm talking about my conspiracy theory about how the Jews came about, well, I'm jumping to conclusions because I want that to be the conclusion. That's why I put the hat on, you see, because I'm honest. And I can say when I'm making stuff up and pulling it out of my ass, and it seems correct, and if people want to prove me wrong, feel free. That's why I've got the hat. Don't go around getting doctorates, pretending like I know everything just so I can lie out my ass, and people will believe me more because I've got a doctor in front of my name. Well, how could you disagree with him? He's got a doctor in front of his name, do you? You know, it's like last week's video. Well, when I see a man building a wall, I'm not going to question him if I think it looks wrong. This is what the Bible does to you.
So these were major empires that kind of intersected in what's now Israel. They kind of had a border there. And so they made treaties back and forth with one another. And the fascinating thing about these treaty covenants that we've discovered, and we have several of them, they're written in Egyptian, and there's a copy in Hittite, you know, and
copy in Akkadian, because most of these things were done in Akkadian, because it was, you know, like the lingua franca of diplomacy at the time. And it was even seen that by the Egyptians of doing this is like the sign of diplomacy, because the Egyptians were supposed to be all high and mighty. But, you know, being the kings of all these countries, they saw each other with the spark of the divine and saw each other. They literally called each other brothers. And not just, you know, oh, you know, we are brothers as in we are kings, right? Brothers in arms or whatever, right? It also meant we are brothers as in we are the same. You see, we are on the same level. We are underneath whatever God is above us, whether it be Marduk, whether it be fucking, you know, El Shaddai, whether it be Ra, whether it be, you know, Baal, you know, whoever, right? I forgot the Hittite king name. But you know what I mean? So, like, they were talking to each other, and the brother is the station level. You see, it's the nomenclature for fucking your position to each other, because you're not going to go, oh, your highness, because you're your highness as well, right? So you're brothers because you are on the same level. You see, because you are all receiving the spark of the divine from the God above, whether it be city, country, whatever.
And also in the international language at that time, which was Akkadian, and you don't want to go onto all that and get down on a rabbit trail, but
yeah. So I jumped the gun a little bit, didn't I? I forgot that, you know, he talks badly. You should have just said Akkadian with it, because you mentioned the language. But I jumped the gun. That's my bad. I did that. I haven't I watched like the first couple of minutes of this video and I went, all right, I'll make fun of this. I haven't watched this far into it, so this is, I when I film videos, I try and get the realist reaction. I give them maybe a cursory going over, depending, next week I should have an inspiring philosophy video about the flood. What have I done? You always tell me, just tell me, my Lord. And that's not a tease. And so like. What was it? I go over that one a little bit more because he tries to talk clever and he tries to talk about very specific items. And whilst I despise the man, I do enjoy that part of him. He gives you more concrete things to talk about, unless you want to talk about how the Gihon isn't a river that goes into Kaziite lands and it's a spring in Jerusalem. He doesn't want to talk about that. No matter how many times no matter how many times I hound him about it, he does not care. So like when I do something like that, I might do a little bit more research. But I like doing the live reaction stuff. It gets a little bit more of the stream feel, but also it gives me a little tiny sense of superiority that I can come up with all the stuff basically off the top of my dome and a little bit of one Google search in between things. You go, oh, what is that? Okay, it's this. What's the actual time for this? You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird that a doctor can't have the same kind of knowledge that I do, considering that I'm an extreme layman and I've only read a bunch of books. I don't have the official degree, so I don't mean as much, but So, yeah, I jumped the gun on him talking about Acadia, but it's a rabbit hole we don't want to go down. And we will go down that rabbit hole next week when we talk about the flood, you see, and that's why he doesn't want to go down that rabbit hole, because there's a lot of little bits of the Genesis stuff that is definitely, written in Akkadian that we only deciphered like 150 years ago. So because of that, they got to go around saying they were the only ones that had a flood myth and their creation story and different stuff, and they really nicked a lot of it from a lot of different people. And then they, changed to here and there to make it legally distinct, so it's not plagiarism, But hey. Anyone who's read, the first book of Wheel of Time, all right, will tell you that you could still plagiarize and be different. I mean, it's done well. When it's done well, they go, oh, it's a homage, don't they? And you don't want to go down that rabbit hole of how cultures that existed long before the Hebrews and long before even Abraham was supposed to have existed was rabbiting on about things that you guys went on about because you totally didn't nick it from them. So you don't want to go down that. And you Christian listening to me right now, you don't want to go down that rabbit hole because that's just a stupid rabbit hole. And who wants to go down an Akkadian rabbit hole? I don't know. Atrahasis?
Different languages these covenants are preserved in, and the structure of them looks like the book of Deuteronomy.
I am the weaver.
With an introduction and then kind of a historical prologue about the past history of the covenant parties.
So, 2 Kings 22. Doctor of the Dead Sea Scroll, Doctor of Theology, specializing in Dead Sea Scrolls. Dr. John Bergsma. Kings 22. Josiah was 8 years old when he became king, and he ruled Jerusalem 31 years. His mother's name was Jedediah, daughter of Adadiah. She was from Bozkath. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord and followed completely the ways of his father David, not turning away to the right or to the left. In the 18th year of his reign, King Josiah sent the secretary Shaphan, son of Azaliah, to the son of Meshullam, fuck Jew names from ancient Jew names. Fuck ancient Jew names. To the temple of the Lord. He said, go up to Hezekiah, Hezekiah, the high priest, and have him get ready the money that has been brought into the temple of the Lord, which the doorkeepers have collected from the people. Have them entrusted to the men appointed to supervise the work on the temple, and have these men pay the workers who repair the temple of the Lord, the carpenters, the builders, and the masons, and have them purchase timber and dress stone to repair the temple. But they need not account for the money entrusted to them, because they are honest in their dealings. Salt of the earth. Salt of the earth. Hilkiah the priest went to Shaphan the secretary and said, I have found the book of the law in the temple of the Lord. He gave it to Shaphan, who read it. Then Shaphan the secretary went to the king and reported to it. Your officials have paid out the money that was in the temple of the Lord and have entrusted it to the workers and the supervisors in the temple. Then Shaphan the secretary informed the king, Hezekiah the priest has given me a book. And Shaphan read from it in the presence of the king. And when the king heard the words of the book of the law, he tore his robes and he gave his orders to Hezekiah the priest, Anakiah son of Shaphan, Akbor son of Merechiah, Shaphan the secretary of Uzziah, the king's attendant. Go and inquire of the Lord for me and for the people of go inquire of the Lord for me and for all the people of Judah about what is written in this book and has been found. Great is the Lord's anger that burns against us, because those who have gone before us have not obeyed the words of this book, and they have not acted in accordance with all that is written there concerning us. So, Doctor of fucking Theology, it's in your fucking Bible that Moses didn't write the fucking thing. And do you know what happened at the time of King Josiah? Do you know what happened in the time of King Josiah? Judah fell, and they became vassal states. Oh, it's like they took, like Akkadian scripts and made the covenant out of the contractual things of the Assyrian Empire. Weird that, isn't it? Weird how that happens and how it all lines up at the same time. Weird how all that stuff happens, but the Bible definitely wasn't changed around then at all, was it? No, definitely not. Definitely not. No. The doctor of theology is correct.
And then we get into some major constitutional principles, and then we get into a whole bunch of very specific laws, and then we end with instructions about how to store the treaty document and how often it should be read publicly.
Yeah, and because they took it from the Assyrians, it's almost like that was their standard practice, and they did it with everyone. But hey, it must be Moses doing it, right? It must be Moses, and it has nothing to do with the events that happened at the time. Look at how they got all this stuff from other people. It proves that we're real. They nicked the tent from the Egyptians. They nicked the tabernacle from the Egyptians. They nicked the covenant code from the Assyrians, the Egyptians, and the Hittites. And God's real, by the way, and so is Moses. And it's not anything else. It's not anything else. It's never been anything else. It never will be. Nothing at all.
And a list of blessings for following the covenant and curses for breaking the covenant. Boom, 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 boom. This has been known for, since the 1950s at least. This material, has come out. It's like, dang, the book of Deuteronomy is following this covenant treaty format that we can attest to the time period that many have proposed as the time period of the Exodus.
As long as we forget about Assyria making Judah, as long as we forget about Assyria making Judah a vassal state, and when you become a vassal state, you have to change your law code, and then Josiah found a book of the law. Weird that, isn't it? It's weird how all of that lines up. Weird how none of that says that actually it was an old time-honored tradition. All of it says that, oh my God, the Assyrians came in, and then... People make me hate life.
And what do we know about Moses? Well, he was raised in the Egyptian royal court where they were sending these documents. This was political, international politics with international political treaties that were passing back and forth. And Moses, if he was raised in the court of Pharaoh, would have been trained to read these languages and read these political documents and be familiar with them. And
would he? Where are you getting that from? I don't think you understand how absolute power works with people, especially the Egyptians. You were going on about before that they thought they were gods, and now you're like, but they got advice to everyone, especially people they picked up from a basket in the water. They teach them how to read Hittite and how to read all Babylonian and Akkadian and how to read all these different languages and how to do all that because, he was bound to be Pharaoh, so he needed to know, right? What? He was a slave driver. He worked for slave drivers. Oh my God. Well, who cares what's in the Bible, right? Because if you can make it up and nobody's actually read it, then you get away with everything, don't you? And that's really what they teach you, don't you? Don't they? You know, just make it up, nobody cares. They'll just believe you because they want to. Hooray! It's fantastic.
How to engage in, international diplomacy. So, Moses would be a natural person to be able to write such a document, not between two great foreign kings, but between the king of creation, God himself, and his covenant people.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of all the amazing proof of exactly how we know the Exodus to happened. I need time. I need to go and clear my head. I need to have a smoke. I need to walk the dog. I need to have a think. Because this is bullshit. I like, they got a tent like it, and, Moses definitely wrote it because, well, I know it never says literally anywhere in the Bible that he knew about, the Tel El Amarna letters and stuff like that, and, different law codes and different, covenant codes that were sent as peace treaties between people. That's, he definitely knew about all them, and he definitely knew how to write them, how to structure them, and he knew all that because the Bible says it. So well done, Dr. Joshua Bergsma, whatever, for trust. It's well done for trusting in your own understanding, not in the Lord's. Good night, everyone. And you can now see that this box that my great-grandmother worked on while working on Tutankhamun's tomb, definitely see it there. She told it to us. She said, we're slaves now, but one of these days you're going to see a box just like this, and then you'll know you're free, sent by the good Lord Yahweh. Cultural norms at the time.